Hello and welcome to another episode of Damon's Tabletop Terrain. On today's episode, I'm going to uh, go through how I made a HOTH table for Star Wars Legion. I did this about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was recently going through all my photographs of the build of various terrain pieces, and just wanted to sort of put something together that people could find helpful if they're doing their own kind of snow-themed table. So for this table, I used quite large, they're about 3 foot long wooden um, panels, and then on top of those, I put my foam sheets, just glued them firmly onto those bases. So quite large to store, but they do look pretty good when they're finished. So I think I had 3 of these. And so the first step was to sort of make some trenches for the troops to sit in. And you can chip away with a knife if you wanted to, but I just found it was easier to just add a nail varnish remover, which is sort of acetone based. So it will give off some fumes. So you should really do this in quite a large open space with maybe a fan going. It's not too bad, but for obvious health reasons, you shouldn't be breathing in acetone fumes. And so when you gently sort of dab this on with either a brush or some tissue, it will gradually dissolve the foam and give you kind of a nice little sort of natural kind of rocky or sort of snowy kind of interior there. So it's uneven, it's kind of nice. So once that's done to your liking, and you can make little scratch marks with the acetone as well, so it's not all of a flat surface, obviously being snow, and that's what you want to recreate. And then by using Durham's water putty, you can seal that foam. And you can put this on as a very dilute, watery consistency, or a thicker sort of toothpaste kind of consistency. So here I built up layers as if snow had been dug out of the trenches and thrown onto the side. So it gives a little build up there and a little bit of texture. And then once you're happy with that and it's set pretty hard, I think on the edges here I actually used Hodgepodge, which gives you a slightly different consistency, but it also dries quite nicely. It doesn't really crack. And then that would have been primed white. And on most of these terrain pieces, I did wash with a very dilute light blue ink wash. That was blue ink with matte medium and some distilled water. And that just gives you the more natural kind of bluish tinge that you see with snow. It's not usually just pure white, so you get that kind of blue iciness coming through at certain points that makes it look a bit more natural. And then here's the finished result here after I've painted it and added some kind of snow flocking to it with some other pieces. So I also had some light terrain. So these were smaller pieces that I could put anywhere on the board. So these are usually models or toys that I found that are the same sort of scale as Legion, that I can just simply attach to firm bases and then build up with the water putty and then build them up and paint them. The AT-AT here is actually something I picked up off eBay. It's a Disney popcorn bucket. A few years ago, these were sort of handed out in cinemas at certain Star Wars film showings when they were re-released. So you can still find these on eBay now and again, and they're pretty good when they're weathered up, and they look pretty good. They're not quite the right scale, but they're pretty close if you just wanted something that look cool. They look a bit more detailed than the action figure toy version. So here we have one of the crashed snow speeders with some lighting, and these lighting effects are just simple flicker lights. You can buy these in kits from any kind of hobby um, store, in usually packs of 6 or 10. They're quite cheap, and they have a little switch on the bottom. And these lights, I think they usually have a little protective cover, and you can just remove that. It's not really needed. And then you can apply in thin layers pillow stuffing material. I don't use cotton wool. The pillow stuffing material is finer and gives a more smoky, more natural effect. And these lights will flicker quite nicely, so it actually looks like something's burning, and you get it's not just a set light setting. It will flicker and look quite natural. And if you want to, you could even add a little bit of red paint or ink around the base if you wanted a little bit of red or orange incorporated into that yellow. And then you can basically sit the base of these into a hole that you've made on your base, in this case, so that it looks like it's pumping out of the back of this crashed snow speeder. And you can place these all over the board as flaming explosion or burning markers for your tabletop gaming. And they give it just a bit more realism and look very cool on the board. And here's another angle of it. So you just simply attach that pillow stuffing material around, and then just lightly spray with a can of black and white paint, just until you get the effects that you want. I tend to do it dark around the base and then lighter at the top. And the model here was a small toy that I found on eBay that was about the same. I'm going to say Micro Machines, but I can't really remember, to be honest, what the make of the model was. But it's just a simple toy that you can scratch up and burn and just destroy it, and then make it look like it's been hit by laser fire, and stick it into that mix of Durham's water putty, and then sort of build it up with hodgepodge and some flocking. And then I tend to add some charcoal onto there, some ground up charcoal with just a makeup brush, and dust some of that around with some other small pieces. And yeah, the effect looks pretty good. And then you can add on finer snow effects from Tamiya make one, and so did Games Workshop actually for smaller basing. Very nice snow effects that you can buy for basing. And this is another sort of light cover terrain piece that I made on a board. So this is a piece of burnt wood. So I live on the Cape on the east coast of America, and there's a lot of wood on the beaches that's been used in fire pits and things of that nature. So it's not quite charcoal and will fall apart easily, but it does give a very nice rocky effect, especially after it's been sealed. It's not going to come apart. So you can get just pieces of wood and prime that up and paint it up and then flock it. And in this case, the probe droid was a 3D printed model that I found on, I think it was on Thingiverse, but most of the models that I find for 3D printing, I go through yegi.com, which is a general search engine. And I found this model that was quite nice, printed it up and painted it up, and added some smoke effects to it. So here's some of the things that I've been using for the snow effects to dust over the top. The hodgepodge is kind of for just doing patterns of the snow, and then the flocking obviously adds a bit of texture to rock surfaces and ledges and that kind of thing. And this snow effect is pretty good for small basing around your miniatures, and also for just smaller parts, but it's very natural looking. And so here's another this is just pastels that I've sort of dusted on with a makeup brush and and then sealed it all with a matte spray, so that helps seal it and contain it and protect the paint job and stops the dust from going everywhere, which it actually doesn't do if you really sort of press it into the paint, but sealing it is a good idea. This is the HOTH generator, and this was a 3D printed model. And so sometimes you get some printing lines if you print them off on cheaper end printers or at a lower, faster printing rate. But you can sort of sand that down, or you can apply Rust-Oleum carb primer to it, which is a thicker primer, and that fills in those kind of layers, and you can sand it down if you really want to. So there's still a few printing lines here, but in general it looks pretty good once it's been painted up and then sort of dry brushed along the edges. These guys are models that were, I believe, made by Ryan Biesecker, who does some really beautiful models for Star Wars Legion, and he puts these on Thingiverse.com, and he's also in the past few years he was an active member of the Facebook Star Wars Legion terrain page. So really nice models, and he's been very generous in sort of giving away those STLs for free. And this was also one of his models, I believe. And so these were painted up, and the sort of score marks are all done with either weathering kits or charcoal. And so you can buy these Tamiya weathering kits, which are like makeup kits, and they've got sort of little pads of fine powder. This is sand and mud, and this one has some rust effects and gunmetal. And you know, the applicator is quite nice. You can kind of smudge with this kind of blunt end, or sort of dust on particles with the brush end. But I find now that I tend to buy just packs of pastels from any art supply shop, and you just take a razor blade and just edge off those edges and get a nice fine powder, and then just apply that to your models in the same way. It's a lot sort of cheaper, and you get a lot more powder for your money. So I tend to do that more. But these kits are very nice as well. The Iron Cannon was a toy that I found on eBay, and so I just modified it slightly so it was more like the movie with these plastic panels, and then I built it up with to get rid of the plasticky look of the toy. I sort of covered it in Mod Podge, and I think I sealed it with glue and Durham's water paste just to give it the snowy texture, and then I added all the finer snowy effects, the snow effects and flocking afterwards. And at the end, you know, I had a pretty good table. I think it is quite it takes up quite a bit of space storing it when you do these larger panels like this with the foam, but they do look better than a mat at the end of the day. It depends on what space you have and what kind of look you want for your gaming. So I hope some of the information here was useful for you building your own snow themed tables. So thank you for watching, and if you liked it, please click like and subscribe, because there's going to be more videos coming up. Thank you.